It's Erica Grotto at HFMA's annual conference in Nashville. I am excited to be joined today by Mark Schenk, the Chief Revenue Officer for Wakefield. Wakefield is a revenue cycle service organization that's been in business for over 70 years and provides a variety of services from full end-to-end RCM outsourcing, as well as many specific service lines within the revenue cycle. Mark, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So given the daunting numbers that we continue to see and hear around staffing and resource challenges, what are some of the solutions? How has Wakefield addressed this?
Something that we've talked about quite a bit is actually having an impact on the end result of what we're trying to accomplish in all of healthcare, whether we're on the services side or the provider side, which is to provide a better outcome for the patient experience, which you might think, well, how does someone in rev cycle services help with that? Our goal is for people to show up every day knowing that even if they're just picking up the phone and making a phone call to a patient or working with an insurance company to try to retrieve payment, that ultimately that's helping that end person who received that service. That unfortunately, a lot of times the billing is incorrect or whatever, and we do everything we can to try to fix that process, but it's the cultural aspect of what we do, from helping people feel like they're part of something more meaningful than just coming in and pushing paper and meeting a number every day.
So tell me about how some of your clients have handled some of these issues.
Well, so our clients, like we've talked about before, everyone's kind of in this same pool, if you will, of struggling around the staffing shortages, but not only the shortages that are driven by perhaps lack of resources or lack of qualified resources, but also the retention issue, right? So we're able to finally find those resources, and they may show up for a day or two or a week if we're lucky, and then they're gone, right? So that's not news to anybody. We've all seen this happen, and I think we're dealing with a little bit of a cultural shift, the big culture, right? Not so much our organizational culture, but this bigger culture around the way, technology has influenced sort of this next generation that's coming up. We've got the younger generation that's coming out of college that are looking for jobs. And so where we've seen the impact with some of our customers, or where I should say maybe they've seen the benefit of perhaps sourcing some of that help, whether it's with us or somebody else, or they do it themselves, they're starting to realize that there is a shift happening here, and we have to pay attention to the shift. Some of it we may not agree with, some of it we don't really understand, right? If we're, I don't consider myself too much further into the next generation, but I probably am. And so the reality of it is that gap continues to exist as the next generation comes on board. And so it's recognizing, the importance of, again, helping them feel like they're part of something meaningful. So where I've seen our clients who are on the provider side of the equation, they've found it beneficial to work with a company like ours, where we can provide resources in a quicker fashion than they would be able to, or even perhaps to the extent that they might choose to outsource an entire component of their revenue cycle, because they recognize that trying to keep up with the rat race of filling employees is too difficult to do when they've got to focus on really the provision of care. And so that's where, I feel like among the many things that we can bring to the table, that probably creates the one differentiator for us by providing stability in that equation, which is very hard to come by.
We've really only scratched the surface here. There's so much more we could talk about. But Mark, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.